News every 15 minutes, weather every 10, and sports twice an hour.
Newstalk, KGVO, AM 1290, and now 101.5 FM.
You're listening to Montana Morning with Peter Christian.
More information about a man who was shot in the face on Thanksgiving Day. Good morning. This is John King filling in for Peter Christian, who's out with a cold. Hopefully he recovers soon. Your news. Yeah, I got to get things straight here. Your news this morning brought to you by Missoula Nissan Hyundai. Drive what you want affordably. Stop by Missoula Nissan Hyundai today to find out how leasing may be your best deal on a new car. When 40-year-old Casey Heavy Runner was shot in the face on Thanksgiving weekend, few details were released about what actually happened. Now the Missoula County Sheriff's Office has issued a warrant, and it's for Heavy Runner himself. Missoula County Sheriff's Department Public Information Officer Brenda Bassett has details.
He's the suspect that was shot during a recent burglary in Bonner. That happened on November 26th, and he was arrested in Seattle. He had been, as I said, shot in the face and treated for his injuries at a Seattle hospital, and now we're just waiting for him to be extradited back to Missoula County to face charges of burglary, tampering with or fabricating physical evidence.
No charges have been filed against the man who shot Heavy Runner.
Yeah, well, he entered a home, as I said, in Bonner. It wasn't his residence, and it was the homeowner that discharged the firearm. It hit Heavy Runner in the face, and the Heavy Runner left the residence in Bonner and actually went a few blocks down and entered another person's residence, and that was when 911 was called.
The Sheriff's Department is still looking for information about what exactly happened that night and are asking the public to call 721-4444 if they have more details. Despite wildfires this past summer, Glacier National Park set an all-time annual visitation record already this year. Through November 30th, 2.35 million visitors had entered the park this year, beating 2014's full-year record-setting number of 2.33 million visitors. The Daily Interlake reports that a total of 19,500 visitors had entered the park last month, a 24% increase over last November. Overall, year-to-date attendance is up 1.7% over last year. MCPS Superintendent Mark Thane faced a small group of reporters and at least one Hellgate High School parent yesterday addressing the data breach that occurred last Friday.
The Word document that was sent was intended to convey notes from a recent parent meeting. The document was in fact corrupted and contained an additional 16 pages of personally identifiable information about Hellgate students and about one Hellgate staff member.
Thane said that 4 administration computers have been sealed and an investigation is underway to determine if the data breach was a deliberate act. Thane also had a stern warning for anyone who deliberately continues to disseminate the wrongfully released information.
I want to be clear that while our release of information was unintentional, anyone who received the original document via email and who then chose to share it via screenshots, forwarding the email, or sharing printed versions, and intentionally releasing confidential information on students are in fact harming those students and the families and may be subject to legal consequence.
Thane also said at the time of the press conference no parents had contacted the administration threatening any legal action due to the breach. Federal officials say further testing was unable to confirm the presence of E. coli in the onions and celery used to make chicken salad at Costco warehouses across the country. But the Montana public health officials who did the initial testing say that doesn't mean that their earlier findings were invalid. The U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention said in a news release on Tuesday that the onion and celery mix from Taylor Farms Pacific has not been ruled out as the source of the E. coli outbreak that made 19 people sick in 7 states and sent 5 people to the hospital. Taylor Farms has subsequently recalled the vegetable mix from Costco and other retailers. State and federal grizzly bear experts from across the Pacific Northwest will be in Missoula this week to discuss ongoing efforts to remove the bears from the Federal Endangered Species Act protections. The Interagency Grizzly Bear Committee kicked off its winter meeting on Tuesday. In addition to protection efforts, the committee will also examine reports on grizzly bear conflicts and measuring methods in the area. Public comment is taken at the end of the work session each day, and they are expecting to have that public comment period open at around 4:30 today. Montana Fish, Wildlife, and Parks will be asking a state commission this Thursday to install an unprecedented keep and kill policy on walleye out of Swan Lake. FWP Public Information Officer John Fraley has details.
There is a mandatory keep and kill regulations for walleye that are caught in Swan Lake, and there's several reasons for it. First of all, that's to prevent anglers from releasing live walleye back into the lake that might help establish walleye. Secondly, it's a disincentive to illegal fish introductions, anybody doing that, because not only can you not catch and release walleye, but you can't keep them for consumption.
Fraley says that FWP investigators are certain that 2 walleye found in Swan Lake were illegally stocked there.
Well, it's the first walleye we've had reported in the drainage, and there's no way for a walleye naturally to get into Swan Lake that we can fathom. So we're assuming it's an illegal introduction. We're pretty sure about that. This is a very aggressive regulation. I can't remember in the last few decades seeing a mandatory kill of a fish in northwest Montana.
A reward for information about who placed the walleye in Swan Lake has been increased to about $25,000. Anyone with information is asked to call 1-800-TIP-MONT. Montana's election watchdog alleges that a national anti-union organization offered a package called The Works that funded and managed campaign activities for select Republican legislative candidates. Commissioner of Political Practices Jonathan Modell said in court filings that candidates who accepted the National Right to Work Committee's package received assistance that includes fundraising, mailings, and research. The services were provided for free at the cost of the mailings, and Modell says they were illegal contributions. The rains that have been falling throughout western Montana so far pose no immediate danger of causing local rivers to overflow their banks. However, hydrologist with National Weather Service in Missoula, Ray Nicholas, says that the chance of flooding is much greater in northwest Montana.
With the precip that we're going to have coming through in the next 24 hours, mostly in some of the areas that are just smaller streams or overland runoff that might come onto the highways in different areas up in northwest Montana.
Nicholas said that recent valley rain has transitioned into a decent amount of mountain snow above the 5,000-foot level.
Yesterday we did actually have quite a slug of snow up above about 5,000 feet. It was snowing most of the day and night up in Lolo Pass and Lookout Pass. Unfortunately, with this next slug of moisture, it's going to be raining on top of that snow, but quite a bit of it will melt off at the lower elevations.
Nicholas singled out U.S. Highway 2 as one roadway that might see some water from the upcoming rain.